Chapter 23, Jaguar. The tribe's encampment was well hidden in a small clearing. By the time we got there, it was almost dark. There was a single horse-shaped structure made out of poles and covered with dry leaves. The roof was shaped like a dome and quite tall. There were several separate compartments facing the center of the horseshoe. With the small cooking fires burning outside them, Raoul was sitting down, facing one of the poles. We were about 100 yards away, hiding under a fallen tree. Scarlet sat on the tree, preening herself. "What if Scarlet screams?" I asked. "Scarlet and I have been together a long time," Silver said. "She knows when to be quiet." He set up a small tripod and a spotting scope. I looked through it. Raoul's hands and feet were tired around the pole and vines. Silver was right about him not being too upset about his situation. A woman came over to him and started feeding him out of a large gourd. He was smiling and gulping down the food like a baby bird. "Are you sure we should free him?" I whispered. "I told you he didn't seem too upset," Silver smiled. "That's the same woman who was feeding him this afternoon. I think we should at least get him out of there and ask him what happened and what he wants to do. The problem is going to be getting in there without disturbing them," Silver continued. "I don't want to get into a situation. Someone else might get hurt in the process." "So what are we going to do?" I asked. "I thought I'd wait until they were all asleep, sneak in, and cut him loose. I don't know what else to do." "Let me go in?" I asked. "I don't think so." "I can do it." "Let me go in," I said. "I don't think—" "I can do it." I told Silver about how I learned to stalk in Kenya. He listened patiently. "That's quite a story, but if you get caught, we're dead. You're the only one that can get us out of here." "I can do this, Silver." He gave in. "I hope you're right." We waited and watched. Silver said there were only about 20 of them. 4 or 5 of them are little kids, and there are about 2 babies. There might have been a lot more of them at one time. They could be a few survivors of the lost city, which is around here somewhere, or they might just be a tribe that wandered into the area one day and stayed. I was tempted to tell him about the ruins under the lake, but I held back. "So Fawcett was here?" "You saw the compass." I nodded. "He was here, all right. He either lied in his letters to his wife about being in Mato Grosso, or he came up here after he was supposed to have disappeared. I don't know if he and his son and their friends were killed here, or whether they decided to stay. He found it, and that might have been enough for him." I told him about the glasses. "In the photos I've seen of Fawcett, he never had glasses on. Maybe they belonged to his son or his son's friend." After it got dark, it became difficult to pick out the details in the village. All we could do was look for movement. We continued to wait. I thought about Doc and wondered how he was doing. I would have given almost anything to be going down the tunnel right now. But we couldn't leave Raoul, and we still had to do something about Tyler. If we survived, I would have a heck of a dispatch to send back to the home. "Are you ready?" Silver whispered. I nodded and started to take my clothes off. "What are you doing?" "This is how I do it." I finished undressing and started smearing dirt all over my body. "What if you step on a snake?" "I won't." He handed me his knife, and I started towards the encampment. When I got to the end of the horseshoe, I slowed way down. I could hear people snoring. A child coughed. I froze in mid-step. My biggest fear was having Raoul cry out when I got to him. I had planned for that. I had hoped it would work. Raoul was slumped over, sleeping, his forehead resting against the pole. When I got to him, I reached towards his head very, very slowly, then clamped my hand over his mouth. He jerked awake and made a muffled sound that I was sure they would hear. When Raoul recognized me, he relaxed. There was some movement in the hammocks, and I held my breath. I sat perfectly still for about 5 minutes. When it was clear that no one was going to get up, I quietly sliced through the vines around Raoul's feet and wrists. He followed me step for step out of the compound. "Impressive," Silver said when we got back. I put my clothes back on, while Raoul and he whispered to each other in Portuguese. "We have a problem," Silver said. "It seems that our friends down there have your female Jaguar's collar." "How did they get that?" "Your father and Raoul stumbled across a jaguar pit when they were out poking around. Apparently the tribe set it for her and she fell right into it. She's dead." In his delirium, Doc had been calling out the jaguar's name. "Not my mom's." "They were on their way back when your father collapsed. Raoul left him in the forest and was on his way to camp to get help, when he got caught by the tribe. They hauled him to the village, and he couldn't make them understand that your dad needed help. Raoul assumed that Doc had died in the forest. It's a miracle that he made it back to camp." "So Tyler is headed right towards the village?" "Right," Silver said. "I figured our best chance is to go out and try to intercept him before he gets here. At least we know where he's headed. Unfortunately, we know which direction he'll be coming from." I thought about this for a minute. "So there's a pit not too far from here?" "Yeah," Silver said. "But what's that have to do with anything?" "Does Raoul know where the collar is?" Silver asked him. "He says that it's hanging from one of the beams on the right side of the compound." "What do you have in mind?" "Let me see if I can get the collar first." Silver and Raoul spoke again. "Raoul says his bag is hanging next to the collar. He'd like to have it back if you can manage it." "I'll see what I can do." I took my clothes off again.